Hey guys, it's Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, and in today's video, we're gonna do a quick unboxing and first impressions review of the Trio 8300 conference phone from Polycom. We're actually super excited about today's first impressions and unboxing and review of the Poly Trio 8300 because this is the first conference phone that we've ever unboxed or ever reviewed on this channel. But first, you're watching the #1 channel on all things business phone and internet service related tips, advice, and educational videos to help you make the best buying decisions when searching for new services and maybe even save yourself a little money along the way. So hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of our content and so that you're notified when we release new videos. Okay. So first and foremost, big thank you to VOIP Supply for coordinating shipping this to us for unboxing and review. And also big thanks to our contacts at Poly Corporate and Marketing who actually reached out to us directly and said, hey Prince, how come you haven't reviewed any conference phones? Would you like for us to send you over one of our conference phones? And actually that has a little bit of a backstory to it before we hop into this review. So for those of you who may or may not know, Rich Technology Group is about 14 years old at the time of this video. However, things didn't really start getting kicked off for us with our YouTube channel until 2019. I actually realized that we had only ever reviewed and showcased desk phones and cordless phones and never had the opportunity of having a conference phone on the channel. So back in late 2019, early 2020, I reached out to get a conference phone, and that's when pandemic became a thing. Everything in the business world got kind of turned upside down and real estate took a pretty serious nosedive, which meant people weren't in offices, so people weren't using conference phones. Well, now people are back in the offices like normal, and we've even started to notice more people are asking for conference phones. So without further ado, here we go. Let's do this unboxing and first impressions of the Poly Trio 8300, which will be the first conference phone unboxing and up close review for Rich Technology Group. Okay, so this is everything that's in the box. To recap what we have here going from left to right, you've got a 25-foot Cat 5e patch cable, which comes with it. That's actually kind of a nice touch. That way you don't have to go out and buy this. But obviously, as I mentioned before, this is 25 foot so that it can get to farther distances because usually conference phones are in the middle of a large conference room or at a greater distance from the wall port or from the internet jack than a regular desk phone. You've got your Poly quick user guide or kind of quick overview manual here as far as box contents and how to plug it up. We've got a couple of what looks like PoE injectors here because I think they're for different power standards. So I think this is one PoE injector and then another one, but I think they serve different voltages or different standards, like maybe it's a PoE standard 24 or 12 or something like that. You've got your actual AC adapter, which goes into one of these PoE injectors. You've also got another AC adapter over here, which goes into one of these PoE injectors. You've got the actual phone here, the Poly Trio 8300. And then last but not least, you've got two different, what appears to be a 7-foot and another 7-foot Cat 5 cable, which I believe is for both of the PoE injectors over here. So that is your box contents there. So let's go ahead and cut this thing on and see what it looks like. And then I'll show you guys what interfaces it's got on it. So first and foremost, you guys, I am a firm believer that first impressions are everything, and this thing is just beautiful. It's really nice to look at. The funny thing is it's actually smaller than I expected it to be. I've seen these conference phones in videos, and I've seen them in other promotional marketing that Poly has done over the past year since it came out, and it actually is a lot smaller footprint on this table than I actually thought it would be. I always thought, well, I would never use one of these in the office because it's just going to take up too much space. But while it does take up a generally large footprint, it's not as bad as I thought it would be from the pictures and the photos that you see online. We're not going to get into too much about the menu today, but we are going to talk about the design, some of the interfaces, and then I'm going to go into some specifications for you guys before I talk about pros and cons. But at first glance, it's got the speakerphone up top here in the middle. I would only assume that it stands up to Polycom's signature HD voice with their speakerphones. For those of you who frequent this channel, you know that even though I have my favorites towards some other manufacturers, I have always stated that Polycom has some of the best speakerphone quality, period, end of story. Or what I usually tell customers when they ask me what type of quality they should expect, I tell them that the speakerphone will sound as if the person that you are talking to on the other end is almost in the same room with you. If you're looking for something that has impeccable speaker sound capability, this is probably it, because since this is a conference phone and it's engineered to have good sound in a large room and with a group of people, I can only assume that the speakerphone sound is going to be better than your typical desk phones and things like that. Diving into our buttons here, it has a numeric keypad on it, just like you would expect with any other desk style phone, even though this is a conference phone. It's got your directional keys here to be able to move around through menus, and also your back key here. It's got your typical home button also to go back home easily if you're lost in the menu. It's also got your hang up button and then your initiate a call button like any other typical phone. And it's got your volume up and down button as well as a mute button here. While this is a newer phone, even newer than a lot of the older Poly models at the time of this video, it does have your standard or typical function style menus, meaning whatever you have here, just like the old school flip cell phones, you can click here and go into the respective menu or option that it is talking about. Let's go ahead and flip her over and see what we have on the underbelly by way of interfaces and outlets. Okay, so you're now looking at the bottom of the Poly Trio 8300. If you look a little closer here, you've actually got your Cat5e port here to get internet for it. It does not have a pass-through on it, but that actually isn't too much of a letdown because this wouldn't typically be something that you would have on a desk or something like that. You've also got two RJ9s here for a headset or microphone instead of just one, which is common with most desk phones from Polycom and other manufacturers. So you've got one Ethernet port here, which is PoE, which I did confirm. And then you've got two RJ9s here for microphone or for headset. If say you've got one or more person in the conference room that wants to listen in on the call and you don't want to use the speakerphone on the top part and disturb anybody else that may be in conference or in the same room with you or something like that. Let's look at the other interfaces that are on this thing because there are some on the side. Okay, so if you look closely here, you've got a phone lock here. You've also got a mini USB or a micro USB here. And then this here, it looks like it's a headset jack for like a 8mm or something like that. Last but not least, and this is my favorite, there is a USB port here. Now, I highly doubt that this is for charging the phone. My guess is that this is for a USB headset, which means, and if this is what I think it is, this is actually pretty impressive and I'm gonna put it to the test. I had wondered, could I use this to replace my desk phone just to test it out before doing a more in-depth review for a later date? And I thought, how in the world am I gonna use a conference phone in my office, especially when it's just me? That makes no sense. And then I thought, you know, you could essentially put this phone on your desk and you could use it as a desk phone. You could use it for the speaker when you want to use speaker, and then you could plug in into the USB port that I just showed you and have a headset there, and then use it effectively as a desk phone with a really nice conference phone that's just using a headset. You know, when you really think about it, this is actually not a too far-fetched use of this phone in a world now where everybody is going more hands-free, and some people aren't using desk phones at all. So who's to say that you couldn't use this phone and have a really nice headset connected to it, just like everybody else is using really nice headsets with a mobile app or with the desktop app, but you still have a conference phone if you want to be able to have somebody else in the room or in the office with you on a call, or if you just don't feel like wearing a headset and you want the convenience of being able to just speak into a high quality speaker. Now this has me wondering if this conference phone supports Bluetooth, because if so, that's like icing on the cake, because that means that you could be truly hands-free and you could connect this to a Bluetooth headset that, you know, sits somewhere else and then use this as a conference phone when you want. And that is like the ultimate conference phone slash desk phone slash hands-free station. And speaking of if it does or doesn't have Bluetooth, let's hop into specifications. So Polycom's website states that the Poly Trio 8300 conference phone is a conferencing solution for small meeting rooms with up to 5 people, offering the same familiar interface as its predecessor. The Trio 8300 allows users to join meetings quickly and effectively in just seconds with the touch of a button. Specifications include up to 3 line registrations, so that means 3-line capability, audio connectivity for mobile devices, Wi-Fi audio calling, which is 2.4 gigahertz, 3 cardioid microphones, so that's the microphone ports that I believe we saw earlier, and it says that it includes the Poly Noise Block software, which eliminates background noise. It also says that it's has future-proof, flexible, modular architecture. This device also claims to have voice activity detection, comfort noise generation, adaptive jitter buffers, and packet loss concealment. The port, as you guys saw on the back, is a gigabit port, so that's a plus there. And this also claims to have Wi-Fi connectivity, which is a huge plus because that means that you can connect to wireless networks and essentially connect this thing to the internet without any Ethernet cable at all. But keep in mind, if you do that, you would definitely need to use the power adapters that are included in the box that I showed you guys earlier. Some call handling features that the Polytrio 8300 encompasses is up to 3-line registration, as I already mentioned, shared line appearance, distinctive incoming call treatment and call waiting, call timer and call waiting, call transfer, call hold, local 3-way conferencing, one-touch speed dial, do not disturb, and also I did confirm it does include Bluetooth, so you can connect a wireless headset to it. So let's talk about pros and cons and my first impression. What do I think about this phone? Starting with the pros, I like the footprint size. While it is larger than the footprint of a typical desk phone, it is a lot smaller than I expected. The other pro would be the Polycom HD voice, and it uses the speaker, which for any of you who have ever used any of the newer Polycoms and seen how good the speakerphone is, even not just on their conference phones, but even on their desk phones, it is absolutely incredible. At the time of this video, I'm actually using a Polycom CCX600 on my desk, and the speakerphone is just awe-inspiringly high quality audio input and output. So you have to figure, since this is a conference phone, I can only imagine that they've really thrown and dedicated better engineering and better just overall results into the sound quality on this phone. The other thing that I absolutely love about this phone, which is a huge pro, is the USB port that is actually on the chassis, which I would assume supports a headset, which means that you could effectively turn this into a desk phone that is also a conference phone that also supports a headset that is USB. And that brings us to the next pro, which is the support for Bluetooth, which means you really could use this as a desk phone and go truly hands-free with this connected as your main phone. Another pro is easy setup. I mean, I literally just pulled this thing out of the box and then connected it up to USB, and boom, it was online. Easy setup by way of hardware and easy setup by way of provisioning and getting online and being able to use this thing. Another big pro was the included 25-foot Cat 5e patch cable with this phone. I know that sounds silly, but most phones either these days do not even include a patch cable, and some of them, the patch cable that it includes is super short and inefficient to be able to get medium to long distances if you need to be able to connect your phone in a special place or in an area where you're not exactly right next to a wall jack. So the 25-foot patch cable included in the box was a huge pro, as well as having the PoE injectors in there as well, which is a pretty big pro also. Another big pro about this IP phone is the built-in Wi-Fi. That is just icing on the cake to be able to connect this thing to a wireless network without having to have it connected to an actual physical Cat 5 cable. That is amazing. Very few phones these days with manufacturers have Wi-Fi support and capability. So the fact that it's got Wi-Fi is just a big pro for me. Less wires in today's office world is always a plus. Okay, so moving on to cons. Totally being completely transparent and honest with you guys, I've only got one. My only complaint and con about this conference IP phone is that the screen is monochrome. It is not a color LED or LCD screen. I actually really expected for this screen to be color. Now, I do believe that Polycom has some out there that are color. Why this isn't, I'm not sure. I'd be curious to know from the engineering or from the manufacturing standpoint why this phone, which is kind of like a mid-grade to high-end phone, it's one of their better conference phones, doesn't have a color screen. The only areas where I could see that being an issue, assuming that the screen on this phone is not backlit, is if you're in an area where there is low lighting. But to speak openly and honestly, why in the world would you be in a conference room doing a conference call in a low light setting with a group of people? So while that is the only con that I can think of about this phone right off top, first impressions, I can't really nail this thing for not having a beautiful color screen and just having a regular LCD monochrome display. The Poly Trio 8300 conference phone goes for approximately $300 to $400 US, depending on what source you get it from. We think that's actually a pretty good price considering back in the day, we've seen older Polycom conference phones that did a lot less features than this phone for upwards of anywhere from $700 to $1,000. So I think that's a pretty good price point, especially considering based on everything I've seen, it also, unlike most IP phones, includes the power adapters needed to be able to use this. Service providers that actually support this phone that you can use it with their service would be Vonage, Nextiva, RingCentral, OnSip, and many, many more. I like this phone. I would actually use it if I had a use for a conference phone in an office. The price point is good. The specifications on it are excellent. The speaker looks like it's probably pretty decent, even though we didn't test it in this video. Like I said, my only quarrel with it is I wish it had a color LED display, but you know, that's not too big of a deal, and especially at that price point, beggars can't be but so choosy. Let me know what you guys think about this phone in the comments below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? What did you think about the interface and about just the general design of it? If any of you viewing the channel have actually used this phone in your office, tell me in the comments below what you think about it. Just be honest and open, but also just be polite in regards to the design and be polite to Poly. Again, thank you Polycom for sending this over to us for review, and also big thanks to VoIP Supply for coordinating the shipping and logistics for sending this to us. If you found this video interesting, educational, or helpful, go ahead and give it a like. Also, don't forget you're watching the #1 channel on YouTube on all things business phone systems, internet service, and related tips and advice to help you make the best buying decisions when searching for new service, and maybe even save yourself a little money along the way. So hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any videos and so that you're notified when we release new content. As always, this is Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, your go-to guy for the best deals on business phone and internet service in the United States. I'll catch you guys again in the next video.